be talking about poems. Does anybody know anything about poems already? Someone want to raise their hand? Yes?
They rhyme?
They rhyme, that's a good one. Some poems rhyme, but not all poems rhyme. The two poems that we're going to be reading today, those both rhyme, but some poems do not rhyme, like in the older grades. You're going to be reading poems that don't rhyme, but they're still going to tell you a story about something. Anything else? Yes?
Poems have words.
Poems have words. You have to read a poem, or someone can read it to you, or there's even song poems where you can sing songs to the words. So today we have two poems, and we're going to be talking about the rhyme and the rhythm of these poems. So the first poem that we're going to read is about owls. So does anybody know anything about owls that maybe might be in our poem that we're reading about today? Yes.
They live in trees?
They live in trees. That's a good one. Does anybody else have anything to know about owls? Yes.
Owls, they can spin their head around to look at things all around them, almost backwards.
Yes. Owls can turn their heads all the way around. And they are also nocturnal. Does anybody know what a nocturnal animal means? No? A nocturnal animal means that they sleep during the day and they're awake at night, which is the opposite of us. We sleep during the night and we're awake during the day. So a nocturnal animal is something that stays up all night so they can eat their predators. So owls have really big eyes so that they can see their predators when they're at night. So this first poem we're going to read is called My Enemy. Does anybody have any ideas or predictions about what they think this poem might be about? If it's a My Enemy and it's talking about owls? Does anybody know what an enemy is? Yes.
It's someone the owl doesn't like.
Yeah, it could be a predator. It could be, like I was saying, they're out for their predators at night. It could be something that the owl is trying to eat. It could be just some sort of animal that the owl doesn't like. But I'm going to read this poem to you, and then we're going to clap out the rhythm. So, it's called My Enemy. The owl in the tree is watching me, for he likes fat mice for dinner, you see. His eyes are round, they see everything, especially at night. They don't miss a thing. They swoop from on high and catch their prey. I must beware of its clutches and scurry away. There he goes, the old brown owl, high up into the tree. I'm quiet and quick. He'll never catch me. So do we want to try to clap out the rhythm to this?
Yes.
Does anybody know what the rhythm of the poem is? What's a rhythm? Yes.
A rhythm, sometimes like when you dance to something.
The rhythm of the beat, like the beat of the music. That could be the rhythm. So let's see if we can figure out what the rhythm of this poem is. We can read it together. The owl in the tree is watching me, for he likes fat mice for dinner, you see. His eyes are round, they see everything, especially at night, they don't miss a thing. They swoop from on high and catch their prey. I must beware of his clutches and scurry away. There he goes, the old brown owl, high up into the tree. I'm quiet and quick, he'll never catch me. So did anybody notice something about this poem, how it's written on this piece of paper? How it's written in different blobs, paragraphs you could say? Does anybody know what that's called? Yes.
There's 4 of them.
There's
four parts.
4 parts. So these parts are called stanzas. Stanzas in a poem are the paragraphs. And then the lines are these lines here. And sometimes people think that the the line is the sentence, but it doesn't always have to be just the line. You have to look for the punctuation at the end. So this could be a whole sentence because the punctuation is at the end, but this one has only 2 lines because the punctuation is there. So that's something we need to look for in poems when we read to make sure that we know that we have to follow all the way through the sentence when we're reading it. The second poem I have is called I Have a Little Frog. So I want you to think, pair, share with your partner and tell your partner what you think this poem might be about just from reading the title of the poem. Think with your partner and then look back at me and we'll discuss it.
Maybe somebody has a pet frog.
Yeah, maybe I think that they have a pet frog, and I wish I had a pet frog.
Okay, so what did we discuss with our partners? Does anybody want to share? Yes.
We think it's about a pet frog.
A pet frog. Anything
And-
else?
My partner says she wishes she had one.
She wishes she had a frog. I don't know many people that have frogs as pets because they have a lot of germs, but I'm sure we could find a way to make a frog our pet, just like turtles. So I'm going to read this one by myself first, and then the second time around I want you guys to read it with me. And then the third time I want you to read it by yourself because we're actually going to dance to this poem. And I want you to make sure that you know all the words before we add dance moves to it, okay? So it's called I Have a Little Frog. I have a little frog, his name is Tiny Tim. I put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim. He drank up all the water and gobbled up the soap, and when he tried to talk, he had a bubble in his throat. So now this time around, we're gonna say it together. I have a little frog. His name is Tiny Tim. I put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim. He drank up all the water and gobbled up the soap. And when he tried to talk, he had a bubble in his throat. So can anybody tell me, yes,
Do you think he really drank all the water in the bathtub?
probably not. Sometimes poems are made up stories, and I think that a lot of water in the bathtub is a lot for a little frog to drink. Especially since it says a little frog and not a big frog. So maybe if it was a big frog, it could drink all the water in the bathtub, but I don't think so. Can anybody tell me some words that rhyme in this poem? Pick 2 words that you think rhyme. Yes.
Well, the frog's name is Tim, and he swims, so
Tim and swim. That's a good one. Is there any more that you see? Yes.
Soap and throat?
Soap and throat. Those are good ones too. I think those are all the ones that rhyme, actually. Okay, now this time around I want you guys to say it by yourself to make sure that we know all the words in this poem before we start adding movements to it.
I have a little frog. His name is Tiny Tim.
Okay, everybody's completed their group activities. Is there anything that we learned about doing our movements that make it easier for you to learn the poem, or did it not really help you? Was it more fun to learn the poem? Yes.
If I clap, I can remember the poem better.
If you clap, you can remember the poem better. Clapping to the rhythm of the poem. Good. You?
when I did the movements, it helped me remember the frog's name, and that he had a bubble, and he couldn't talk, and he ate up all the water and the soap. So I can remember that, even though it was funny.
Good. You can remember the movements, and that helps you remember the words to the poem. That's good. That was the whole point of today, because I wanted you guys to be able to create your own movements to the poems that I gave you, so that it would help you better understand the poem and make you remember that for future. So if we go back in like 2 weeks and we're gonna read I Have a Little Frog again, you guys will remember the poem and then you'll remember the dance moves and it'll be a lot easier for you to remember it. So can anybody tell me what they remember, what is a stanza? There was stanzas in this poem. Anybody show me on here where the stanza is in the poem? Yes.
It's like the 4 lines. So this is stanza, and this is a stanza, and this one, and that one.
Good. So when they're indented or there's a space in between showing different paragraphs in a poem, it's called a stanza. So then what is the line part of the poem? Yes.
Oh, I had an answer to the question before too, because there is a point here and one here and one at the end of each part. So, but there's a period there. Why is there 2 in there and not 2 in the other ones?
It's just the way the poem was written. In this one, this is a whole sentence because the punctuation is at the end, but this one has 2 sentences because there's 2 punctuation, and then at the end of this one, it's only 1 punctuation, and then there's 2 punctuation here. Yep.
Okay.
So 1 sentence, 2 sentence, 1 sentence, 2 sentence.
Oh.
Usually poems have some sort of pattern to them. So in this poem, all of them have commas at the end. And then the last 2 are sentences. So it's comma, 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 sentence, sentence. So they always have a pattern of some sort to them. Can anybody tell me if the movements in the poem make it easier to remember the words or harder to remember the words? Having to remember the movements and the words, does that make it easier for you or does it make it harder?
At first it's a little harder because you have to remember everything, but then it makes it easier. Because once you do the movements, then you can kind of remember what the words were.
Good. So I really hope that you guys learned a lot about poems today. Is there anything else that you have any questions about before we continue on to the next lesson? Is there anything that you're still unsure about a poem? Yes.
Do poems have to be long? Those are long.
Some poems are long. Some poems are really short. Some poems can only be like 2 lines or 1 stanza like the first poem we did. Or it can be a long poem like this one. It depends on what the poem's talking about. The poem's telling you a whole bunch of facts, like this one's telling you about this owl's eyes, and then it's watching the mice, and then it's swooping down, like it's telling you a story. But if it was just telling you, I like sunshine, I like the sun, that was it. It's just telling you fun facts. So it can be, poems can be long, and they can be short. Usually we try to stick to short poems for now, just to make it easier. But as you get older and you start learning about poems more, they can be more difficult and longer for you, and harder words in them. Is there anything else we need to know about poems? Anything else? No? Okay. Well, that's the end of our lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed doing